Hey guys, welcome to hell. See, because of my hubris, I've been trapped down here for months, ever since I said that I was gonna complete every single Sonic the Hedgehog game for this very YouTube channel. Haha, I've tried to escape multiple times, but every time I'm stopped by him. Oh, Sonic, you silly goose. Your haunting presence constantly puts me on edge. Hey, I got an idea. Since you guys are down here with me, what do you say we play some video games, huh? I mean, if you have the time, because I sure do with this whole eternal damnation thing going on. Don't worry, I've tried to end it multiple times, but it doesn't work. Doesn't work. It never works. No matter how much I plead for the warmth and coziness of death, it is instead replaced with the harsh, cold realization of what my reality currently is. God casts down upon me with a terrifying sense of apathy, where my only companion in this hell is a blue hedgehog. I have no mouth, and I must scream, Sonic fucking Triple Trouble, baby! Remember that time we talked about the Sega Game Gear? Well, there was actually two fully original Sonic platformers that I didn't even mention. There were Sonic Triple Trouble and Sonic Chaos. Now, both of these games are 8-bit Sonic adventures on a much smaller screen with worse audio. I can understand the side games, Spinball, Mean Bean Machine, Drift, etc., but trying to do the classic Sonic high-speed, colorful level design on a Tic Tac, it just kind of makes these games feel janky as hell. Like, these games are not optimized for the Game Gear's resolution at all, and it leads to a lot of unfair deaths. I mean, this is a Sonic game that punishes you for going fast, which is the worst combination for a Sonic game possible. Sega Chaos, by the way, might be the easiest Sonic game we've covered so far. I mean, you can beat most levels in this game in like 40 seconds. The whole game takes like 25 minutes. It is a stupidly simple and repetitive experience. The level design is flat. The enemies are like sparse. Like, you won't find yourself dying for any reason other than just you couldn't see a pit and you fell in it because of the Game Gear screen size. Like, I don't know how to explain, but Sonic's physics in this game, I believe, are pretty much the same as the Genesis games, but because the camera is zoomed in more because of the size of the screen, it makes it look like he's a lot floatier and gets a much higher jump. So you can't really see a lot of things ahead of you, and it feels like the screen is sometimes trying to catch up to you. Um, but yeah, again, this game is so easy that it's barely even an experience, and it doesn't do anything interesting. The level design, boring. The set pieces, there basically are none. All of the things that make Sonic fun kind of just aren't here. Honestly, I think this is the worst game we've played for this series yet. I'm going to give it a 2 out of 9. The other Sonic Game Gear original platformer is Sonic Triple Trouble. Now, a lot of the core issues of Sonic Chaos bleed into the sequel, and by the way, that blood has HIV in it. However, the level design is actually competent. Like, obviously it's not nearly as good as the Genesis games, but for an 8-bit platformer, the levels in this game have a good sense of, like, flow and speed. There's a shit ton of springs. Now, this game could have been a hell of a lot worse, and I think at the core, there's a pretty enjoyable experience. You know, I was shaking to stop playing Sonic Chaos 5 minutes in, but Sonic Triple Trouble was actually not an enjoyable ride, but one where I'm not upset that I spent my time playing it. You know, there's currently a bunch of fans who are remaking the game in 16-bit graphics, and it really shows that at the core, this game could have been pretty good, but it's stuck on the Game Gear. Actually, the more that I think about it, it's kind of like seeing a chimpanzee paint a picture with his own feces. Like, it's not good, but given the context, honestly, I respect the artistry. So, I'll give Sonic Triple Trouble a 4 out of 9, which, for Game Gear standards, might as well be a perfect 10 out of 10. Well, I think that's a good place for us to take a break from Sonic 2D platformers. Instead, we're going to be trying out the sequel to Sonic Drift 2. And unlike the first entry in this little mini series, this one was actually released in North America and Europe, so you know what that means.
We're right back in it, folks.
So, when you first load up the game, you're going to notice that there are 3 new additional characters that weren't in the original. These are Metal Sonic, Fang the Sniper, and also Knuckles. Holy shit! I gotta say, this game is a decent step up from the original. I mean, the track design is so much better than the original, and by that I mean there's like 4 turns per lap instead of 3 in this one. But the main issue I have with this game once again comes down to the Game Gear screen. The top half is taken up by a map that I nearly never use, and the bottom half is the actual track. The problem is whenever there's an item in play, you can't really see it till it's too late. This mixed with the speed of the game often makes it look like a mess of pixels, and it makes me not want to play the game for a very long time. I really think that if you would have just cut out the top half and just fill the whole screen, then you would be able to see a lot better. 8-bit racing games are always not great, but I feel like with some fine tuning, this could have been a good bit better. But the way it is, it's hard to see stuff in front of you, which isn't good for a racing game. So I'm also gonna have to give this one a 3 out of 9. So I think it's about time that we get back to playing some 2D platformers, but we're not going to be playing, any Sonic 2D platformers. In fact, Sonic's not even remotely in this game, in these next 2 games. Instead, we're going to be playing some 2D platformers based off of Tails. So you know what that means. So these are 2 games that I don't hear people talking about, but when they do, they're pretty positive about it. First up is Tails Adventure. Now this game is a lot different from the playstyle of Sonic. Tails can fly for like a good 2 seconds and can't get much air. He can't jump on enemies or spin dash like he can in every other game he's in. No, instead you just blow enemies the fuck up with a bomb. And you know what? It's cute. It's a decent little change to the Sonic formula the first couple times, but you quickly realize that this is about as deep as the game gets. It's literally just walk forward and attack, and this level design is so flat and uninspired, and it's kind of like maze-like in a sense, almost like a Metroid game, but like a bad Metroid game. I appreciate the attempt to make this entry different from the core Sonic games, but I mean, this game is just so much slower and it's focused on exploration, but the levels themselves aren't intuitively designed for exploration. Everything kind of just looks the same. Another big difference is that the original Sonic games are fun, so maybe they should have included that part, you know? You can also find power-ups in the form of different machines and inventions. This makes the traversal a bit easier, but like I'd rather just have the traversal not suck in the first place than use some power-ups to make it playable, you know? It's like, oh boy, now the game is bad and he's in a car. Now, the second Tails-focused game is a bit more interesting. This is Tails Sky Patrol. In this game, Tails is always in the air, in an auto-scroll kind of setting, and you can't touch the ground or any walls or enemies. You can, however, adjust your speed, so the game becomes one of timing and quick reflexes. I think this is pretty smart, maintaining the speed of the Sonic formula, but in a different context, because you don't control the screen. It forces you to keep moving. This game is kind of like a 2D shooter almost. You can use this ring to attack enemies and latch on to different objects and power-ups and whatever. And oh my god, this game is unforgiving at parts. Like, all the Game Gear games, enemies and obstacles show up with barely any time to react, but usually you have control of where your character is going, which sometimes lessens the frustration, but in Tales Sky Patrol you really don't, which turns the game from a fun little experiment into a frustrating slog. I mean, this game is only 40 minutes long, but even after 15, I was kind of itching and wanted to go do something else. I guess I'll give this a 4 out of 9, because I definitely had a lot more fun with this than Tales Adventure. I guess it's the best game we've played so far, but it's not a good sign, man. Thank God. We only have one more game left on the Sega Game Gear. It is Sonic Labyrinth, and look, I just want to get through this last review so I can put this whole experience behind me, but also, I guess, ahead of me, but also just kind of with me, because I guess time is just a flat circle here. So, we're going to be talking about the last Sonic game released for the Game Gear. It was 1995's Sonic Labyrinth. In this game, Dr. Robotnik has decided to take away Sonic's speed because we can't have the game be too much fun. And he does this by taking away Sonic's shoes, which completely makes him slower, I guess. They were special running shoes, I don't care. Superman has kryptonite, Dracula has garlic and, crosses and stakes or whatever, but Sonic's weakness is property theft. Holy shit, this game is so slow, and you have barely any control. It's like drowning a pit bull, where you're both the person drowning the dog, and also the water. I mean, again, it's like drowning a pit bull, specifically this pit bull. Look at him. He's dead now, and it's all Sonic's fault. Something tells me that last one's not going to hold up in court. So this game is going for an isometric look, which for an 8-bit game just means it's a bunch of squares on the ground, which, I mean, if you're going to do it, I guess that's the best way, but I'd rather you just not do it in the first place. You gotta find 3 keys in each level to get to the goal. They're maybe hidden or at the end of a long bit of, platform. Well, I can't even call it platforming because it's just like the challenge is just walking. It's like that shitty Scorp game or Death Stranding. This is the holy trinity of games where it's designed to make walking not fun. You and other times the keys are in like enemies or whatever that you can just kill with a spin dash, because you can spin dash, which sends you flying in one direction with basically no control. Like, the game is on ice physics all the time, so either you're going too slow or too fast. There is no middle ground. It's like Goldilocks, but instead of a little girl, it's Sonic. And instead of the 3 bears, it's me not wanting to play Sonic Labyrinth anymore. 1 out of 9. 2 out of 9. 2 out of 9. I don't care. The Sega Game Gear died in the spring of 1997. It was only 7 years old. It sold 10.3 million units, which sounds like a success, but remember, the reason behind its existence was to compete with the Game Boy. It was so much more powerful than the Game Boy, but that system sold 118 million units and and came into this world before the Game Gear and took a good bit longer to die. It's wild. I mean, could you imagine getting your ass whooped by a calculator? Pathetic. This has brought me to a grisly realization. The Game Gear didn't just die, but it was murdered. So, what better way to prove myself to God and get out of this endless cycle of torture than to figure out who did it? That's what we're gonna do next, okay? This fucking stupid bit we're talking about the Sega Saturn next time, okay? Whatever, I don't care.